Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Jatapada Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatang Vitang Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitangscha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pango Langhayate Girim Yat Kripav Tamahang Vande Sri Gurun Dinatarinam Namo Mahavaranaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratise Nama Adadana Srinam Dantaya Iram Jache Puna Puna Srimad Rupa Padamboja Duli Sham Janma Janmani Enyandantam Pulakot Karena Bikasam Nipa Prasunatstavim Prodrikritva Bujadvayam Hari Hari Etu Chai Vedantam Muhu Nityantam Jutamasru Nirjara Chaye Sinchantam Urvitalam Gayantam Nija Parasadaya Parivratam Shri Gaura Chandram Nama Ananda Lila Maya Vigrahaya Hemava Divyachtavi Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasa Pradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Yes, there's some question.
I have a question from Gupta Gordhan. Why and how can consciousness exist separately from matter?
Why and how?
Yeah.
One famous writer, intellectual, Susan Sontag, she had a statement in her notes, as consciousness is harnessed to matter. So, as Srila Guru Maharaj says in his Subjective Evolution of Consciousness concept, that the whole objective world is like an iceberg floating in an ocean of consciousness. And he will say that a cluster of subjective concepts makes an object. So, in other words, attributes are concepts like hard, soft, heavy, light, black, white, length, breadth, depth. All of these are subjective. You think a cluster of subjective concepts makes an object. So really, at the basis of everything is consciousness. The objective evolution assertion is that there are, a trillion planets, stars, planets, etc. And there's one, the Earth, that sustains a conscious elite. And that conscious elite, if they get lucky on a good day, they experience a drop of happiness. So in this conception, matter is more or less infinite. And then consciousness, there's a very small amount of consciousness, right? And all of this matter, this trillion stars or so many universes, whatever source you have of information of how the size of the universe. In this scenario, matter, the objective world, is the vast substance, right? Bordering infinite, just for the sake of example. And then there's just this one tiny place, and we know, you've seen pictures on the internet of the Hubble telescope or other telescopes, and they'll show the what to speak of the Earth, the sun, and show how tiny these things are in comparison to so many other things. So only in this one little dot of a place, there are conscious living beings. So if we take it that consciousness is a substance, so that's the only place where consciousness has manifest, right? And then within this small amount of consciousness, in this vast subjective world, rarely will that conscious subject experience happiness, right? Yet they're hardwired to seek happiness, right? Sweetness, such things. I've mentioned before when I was a child and where I lived in southern Maryland, there were blackberry patches, right? And they're around this high, and the blackberries are close to the ground, and they're like thorny, and you have to really sort of crawl in there to get them. And my friends and I, we like to do that. And these juicy blackberries, just by touching them, your fingers become purple. Right? And one time we crawled in there and I'm looking and I see there's a turtle because the blackberries hang low to the ground, that turtle is eating the blackberries and really has kind of like a child has blackberry juice and part all over his turtle face, And when I see him, because I'm low to the ground, and we're both a little startled, but he just like looked at me, kept chewing, and in that moment, briefly, I had this realization. I thought, we're searching for the same thing, sweetness. I'm searching for sweetness. He's searching for sweetness. And this way we're united. There's some unity, some camaraderie of our beings that we're both searching. We're embodied in different forms. Like we told Manu, tamasa bahurupena bestita karma hetuna. That all these life forms you see, how many Padma Purana says, Jalaja Navalakani Stavra Lakavingshati, 900,000 aquatics, so many plants, so many trees, so many insects, birds, beasts, Chatur Lakani Manushaha, 400,000 varieties of human beings. So it says roughly 8,400,000. And if you think of that, let's just round it off to 9 to make it simple. So, like when you have RGB, red, green, blue, or red, blue, yellow, and from that, previously it would be red, blue, yellow, but now with computers, people are more familiar with RGB. And we'll see, on old monitors, it was a big deal when you would see, instead of 128 or 256 shades of whatever, that there were suddenly, they would advertise, on these monitors, there are millions of colors. And I'm like, wow, is that even possible? That's what it would say, millions of colors, millions of shades, millions of variations. RGB. And what is that from a Vedantic point of view? Tama, Raja, Sattva. Tamogun, the mode of ignorance. Rajagun, the mode of passion. Sattvagun, the mode of goodness. And the varieties of combinations of these, millions of different forms. Right? Jalaja Navalakani Stavra Lakavingshati. And then what does Manu tell us? Tamasa bahurupena. Bahurupa means all these different forms that you see. Vestita karma hetuna. It's all karmic dress. As I've said, the body is the biological expression of the soul's delusion. So I'm crawling there in that blackberry bush, human form, the turtle's crawling, but two souls searching for the same thing, which is sweetness, and by extension, happiness. Sometimes we will say, Sat Chid Anandam. Other times Guru Maharaj mentions another sequence, Satyam Shivam Sundaram. Sundaram meaning beauty, Anandam meaning happiness. This is the culmination, that consciousness can ultimately enables feeling. And what is feeling? The target of feeling is joy, happiness, ecstasy. But in this scenario of the trillion planets, the virtually unlimited objective world, with the one little blue planet, with the conscious elite being human beings, because the turtle's also conscious, right? Rarely do they experience a drop of happiness. Perhaps the poet Chandidas, Chandi, I believe, or Vidyapati, one of them says searching for happiness in the objective world is like searching for a drop of water in the desert. And you can see this scientific scenario supports that premise. A drop. Searching for happiness in the objective. At best, there's only a drop, and it's fleeting. Right? As this life is fleeting. When we hear from the poet Govinda Das, Kamala Dala Jala Jivana Talamala Bajahun Haripara. For so long, I used to think that meant because a lotus flower, the leaves of the petals of the lotus flower. But that's not what it is. It's the leaf. The green leaf. Here's the lotus, but then there's this green leaf. And you can see with the lotuses we have here that when it rains, there'll be pooled little balls of water. And sometimes they look almost silver from certain angles of it, like mirror-like. And you can look at them, and then suddenly, without any indication whatsoever, it just rolls off the leaf. It's not like you can tell it's going to do it. I've done experiments. I'm an ontological scientist. So I've sat there and tried to see if I could predict when one would roll off, and I never could. Just suddenly one goes off. That's what he's saying. Govinda Das, Kamala Dala Jala Jivana Talamala. This life, it's so uncertain. At any moment it can finish. And in that life that's so uncertain, at any moment can finish, happiness is rare as a drop of water in the desert. So what's motivating everybody? There's a collision and this mad rush to get the drop, right? What's perceived as self-interest, right? To acquire, control, and consume things that are lower than us. But, so that's the objective side. Right? Guru Maharaj presents subjective evolution of consciousness. Because in the objective scenario, saying the way he put it, just to make it blunt and to give you an example to show the utter absurdity of what is being asserted, he said, can stone produce consciousness, is that more tenable, or is it more tenable that consciousness can hold within it the concept of stone? The whole objective world is an iceberg floating in an ocean of consciousness. He will say that subjective evolution parallels objective evolution. Just like the other day, Munendra, he is reading about Kapila's instructions to Devahuti, and is described as Samkhya Yoga, or as that Bengali man would say, Sankhya Jog. Right? But then he sees other places where Sankhya Jog is being rejected. Then we come to understand, there are two Kapilas, an atheist Kapila and the incarnation of God. And they're both presenting something similar, but one is absent, Atma, or the soul. So in Guru Maharaj's, how do you say, and his subjective evolution, he's not choosing to argue so many, I think, relatively trivial points. He says they parallel one another. The difference being, one is being driven by the soul. It's soul-driven, Atma, Paramatma. So, subjective evolution of consciousness. And in that scenario, where the whole objective world is like an iceberg floating in an ocean of consciousness, the objective world is the least aspect, not the vast one. It's the small, the smallest. Like sometimes we will hear in the Bhagavatam that, and Prabhupada's purports, different places, like the Tripad Vibhuti and the Ekpad Vibhuti, the 3/4 manifestation, 1/4 manifestation. Saying the spiritual world is 3/4 and this world is 1/4. It's actually just to give you some idea. Actually, this world is much less significant than that, the unlimited Vaikuntha world. So, in the Vedic scenario, consciousness is that vast substance which the objective world is floating in. And as we said, consciousness allows for feeling and happiness. So it's not the smaller thing, but actually happiness, anandam, and this is the good news, you can tell everybody about it. The good news is the ultimate infinite substance is anandam, happiness. Isn't that great? That's the, and we're still thinking in abstract terms. You know, because whenever we think something is great or big, it starts getting abstract on us because our minds cannot process that. But so if you can hold these two ideas at the same time, so the ultimate infinite substance is anandam, satchid anandam, satyam shivam sundaram, beauty, right? Reality of the beautiful. The ultimate source of everything is beautiful and full of love and happiness. Like, who can believe, like, all the worlds manifest from the ultimate loving substance who's beautiful, charming, and sweet? That's a different way of thinking. Right? And not even directly from him, because you know, as Prabhupada used to like to say, you know, Krishna has nothing to do. Meaning that, like, for creating universes in the rest of the world, the theistic world, they always think that's a major attribution to God, the creator. Right? In Krishna conception, that's delegated. He has no direct interest in creating. Right? So, Balaram, Chaturvyuha, second quadruple, then Mahavishnu. And Mahavishnu, what is he doing? Lying in the causal ocean, right? And we're told, in yoga nidra, which means like sleeping with eyes half closed, half open, half closed. And his peripheral glance, not even direct, peripheral glance, the periphery, there is Maya, and his glance personifies as Shambhu Shiva, and what's the word? Impregnates all the jivas. Sometimes Shiva is described as the sum total of the jivas. Impregnates all the jivas into the womb of Prakriti. And that Mahavishnu, let's say, Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagadanda Koti Kotish Visheshu Vishudha Bhuti Bindam Tad Brahma Niskalamanantam Ashesha Bhutam. And also, what's the one? Roma Villaja, saying from his pores of his body, from each pore, a universe comes out. During his outward going breath, universes come out of the pores of his body. And when he breathes in, they come back in. And he breathes out, breathes in. That outward going breath is around 150 trillion years. The inward going breath around 150 trillion years. Total 300 trillion years. Right? So that infinite, right? Whenever we think of we're thinking great. Oh, so Mahavishnu, that sounds tenable, right? But what about Krishna? He should be bigger than Mahavishnu, right? No, but then we said, no, Krishna is like human size. Right? Krishna Jatega Kela Sarvatam Naralila Naravaputara Swarup. Don't feel bad. Brahma was also deceived. So we're in good company. Right? Muhyanti Yatsuraya. We're not the only people who are bewildered by this. Brahma was bewildered, Indra, and Shiva with Mohini Murti. So we're in good company with the bewildered group. Right? So that's why the Bhagavatam gives away the plot in the first sloka. Right? Like any good book, any great book, the first line, first sentence is always very important. Usually it tells you. Everything else is just, when you get to the end, you realize, oh, that's what he said in the very beginning. So when you reach the end, you go to the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, and later at the top you realize, oh, he said this in the very beginning, that Janmadyasya yataha, from whom everything is coming. But Chakravarti Thakur will say, yes, you see that Adi, Janmasya Adi, here doesn't mean etc. or et out, but it means from Adi Rasa, Mukhya Rasa, the principal Rasa, that means Madhura Rasa. Everything's coming from Madhura Rasa. That's the Sundar Ananda, right? Full of beauty and sweetness. This is the good news. That's the ultimate infinite substance, but not in an abstract sense. And it's called Advaya Gyan, means this one thing to be known. Right? Upanishad saying, Yasmin Vigyate Sarvam Eva Vigyatam Bhavati. Try to know that one thing, upon knowing which everything can be known. I've mentioned Einstein. We're told his girlfriend, Mrs., whatever you want to say, said, notice he didn't keep a notebook. And she said, a simple-hearted girl, you know, like, oh, you should keep a notebook for all your ideas. And he said, I don't need a notebook for all my ideas because I only have one idea. And I keep revisiting this idea. And what is that? The one thing upon knowing which everything is known. That was his idea. Saying, so I don't need to keep notes on that. I'm preoccupied with searching and trying to know the one thing upon knowing which everything can be known. Right? So that is advaya gyan, vedanti tattva vidas, tattvam yaj jnanam advayam. See, jnanam advayam, advaya gyan. And then what does it say? And this is in the beginning. Right? Brahmeti, paramatmeti, Bhagavan iti shabhyate. 3 aspects to the infinite. And I told, for us, the way we're accustomed to think, the extremes of the infinite, we're more comfortable with that. When we hear like greater than the greatest, we go, okay, yeah, like so. I remember the first time I saw infinite. Heard about that? Saw it. Some nun wrote on the blackboard, teaching us mathematics, and then said, like these words. It goes dot, just write a few numbers, and then you put a line. So it just keeps going forever. I mean, I'm still tripped out on that 50 years later. You put this line, it means it goes forever. Right? So at a certain point, it's beyond human comprehension. Which, what did we expect? You know, like the finite will comprehend the sum total of the infinite. Like Guru Maharaj will say, in one cell of your brain, you expect to accommodate the whole infinite. That's a ludicrous proposal. Right? And we'll revisit that. But so, that Brahmet, the extremes of the infinite, Brahman, greater than the greatest, Anuryan Anayan Mahato Mahayan, right? Greater than the greatest, all accommodating, everything fits within that. Once I realized why Brahmavad, and by extension Mayavad, is so popular and can co-opt everything. And then I thought, oh, it's all accommodating, right? So, because we're visiting, I think Mahayogi Maharaj and I were at this Vedanta books, searching for a book at this place, and they had on their altar like Krishna, you know, Kali, Jesus, you know, just one of everything, basically. And then I realized, oh, so they're saying all accommodated within the Brahman conception. But then it becomes nirvishesh. The form becomes secondary to formless. Right? So the other extreme of the infinite, smaller than the smallest. These things we're accustomed to with telescopes and microscopes. Right? So smaller than the smallest within everything. But as Guru Maharaj posited, he said, what will be the central conception of the infinite? If those are the extremes, what is the central conception of the infinite? Which also means the golden mean, right? He said, as one is all accommodating, the other all permeating, all pervading, the central conception is all attractive, attracting everyone to the center. But what is the basis of, what is the attraction? Because we're not talking here about like gravity, right? Which by extension you can make a case for Baladev in the Bhagavatam. But how is he drawing everyone to the center? Right? And it's not matter, material, objective, mundane substance. What is the draw? Right? Beauty, Sundarananda, Ananda Sundar, happiness, ecstasy, beauty, right? Love, everyone being irresistibly drawn towards the center. Akarshan, Krishna, sometimes named Krishna, is related to akarshan, which means that type of magnetism. So Krishna possesses that type of magnetism of beauty and charm. Like we were talking the other day when these cute children came here, the Chinese children, and I was thinking, like, they're like really irresistibly cute. And then I was thinking, because sometimes we hear so much about Madhura Rasa, but then I was saying, so in Vatsalya Rasa, what's the charm? I thought, can you imagine, you see how cute these children are and how we're drawn to them. Can you imagine if there was a child 10 million times cuter than one of these children? You want to know, what's the pull of Vatsalya Rasa, familial affection? Imagine a kid 10 million times cuter than the cutest child you've seen. What would be your response? You know, we would be helpless, right? But in our helplessness, our existence would not be extinguished. We wouldn't stop existing. But we would be so happily, wholly given over to the other, in service, wanting to serve and offer ourselves fully, without hesitation, without limitation. Bhajaniya sarva sadguna vishishta. So what to speak of when we come to Krishna conception? And we know the full sweetness and beauty and seductive charm of the personality of Godhead, which is the central conception of the infinite, is only fully expressed in Krishna. And even within Krishna, its fullest expression at the right side of Srimati Radharani. Only in her presence does he fully reveal all of his beauty and sweetness. As we hear that when, and the gopis are unconditionally, irresistibly drawn to that Krishna, not even other Krishnas. What to speak of other conceptions of divinity, as we're told in Rupa Goswami's example, where he says that Krishna, we know that he separates himself and hides himself at times from the Brajagopi, Radharani and Brajagopis, to increase the intensity of their love and affection. Bahye Vishajalahoy Bitore Anandamoy Krishna Premier Adbhuta Charit. Because the heart in the depths of separation yields the most superior substance of divine love, of Krishna Prem. So that's, and Krishna is addicted to that. Otherwise it appears superficially like he's cruel. How can he do this? But it's even scripted by Yogamaya to intensify divine emotions, love and affection. So one time Krishna's hiding in the kunja, and the gopis are, as they always are, searching for Sri Krishna, reality the beautiful. Hey Radhe Brajadevi Ke Chalalite, Hey Nanda Shuno Kutaha, Gopi Baba Rasamrita Dilahari. The Goswamis, they are Brajagopis, they're always drowning in an ocean of Gopi Baba, searching for Krishna. And Radha and Krishna, in this case Krishna. So then they see Krishna, so they start running toward that kunja, and then Krishna's thinking what to do. Oh, so when they come, he pushes out 2 more arms, and then, much to their chagrin, they see it's not Krishna. From a distance, looking like Krishna, and then when they get closer, they see it's Narayan. And Rupa Goswami writes, Rag Udaya Kunchati, their Rag Uday, what would be give rise to Rag, or their love and devotion, Kunchati is like crushed by seeing Narayan, who, by one analysis of Rupa Goswami, if you say that Krishna has 64 qualities, he says Narayan has 60. There must be something about those other 4 that are special. If upon seeing Narayan, they're disappointed, right? The yogis, if they have a glimpse of the Paramatma, they're ecstatic, right? Here, these teenage girl, Braja Gopis, they're come in connection with Narayan, of Lakshmi Narayan fame, that Narayan, and they can't conceal their disappointment. Who are they? And what do they have? And but they're smart, and they think, you're Narayan, you're omniscient. Do you know where Krishna is right now? You can help us. You can be useful. And then we're told that Krishna tries to play the same trick on Srimati Radharani, but when he comes within the vision of Radharani, the other 2 arms disappear, and he can only be Swayam Bhagavan Krishna. He can't be anything other than how she sees him. Then who is she, and what is her power? That Krishna has to be Swayam Bhagavan in her presence. So, Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur encapsulates this very beautifully, saying, Aradya Bhagavan Brajesha Tanayastha Dhamma Vrindavanam Ramya Kachya Upasana Brajabudu Bhargena Ja Kalpitai. There's no superior worship to that imagined, invented by Srimati Radharani and the Braja Gopis. And what is that? Giving yourself, self-oblivion, offering yourself totally. Right? When Guru Maharaj says Krishna, he doesn't tolerate any lien holder. You know what a lien is? On a property means someone's has an interest, they own part of it. L-I-E-N, lien. A lien, he doesn't tolerate that. He claims sole possession of the heart. And again, I say self-oblivion purposefully to mean solely, so wholly given over to the other as to completely lost themselves, yet retaining their identity and their individuality. And it's reciprocal. Krishna's giving himself in that way. When in the Gita, he promised, Yeyatam mam prapadyante tam stateva bhajamyaham, reciprocation. As you surrender to me, I reciprocate that. You may think, well, that sounds equitable, right? But in the case of, so that's Bhagavad Gita. Srimad Bhagavatam takes it to another level. No pariyeham niravaja samyudam, where Krishna tells the Braja Gopis, the level of surrender that you've exhibited and demonstrated for me, I can't reciprocate. Right? What kind of endorsement is that? He's saying, but you're making me break my promise that I made in the Bhagavad Gita, because it's so great what you've done, the sort of love, unconditional love you have for me. I can't reciprocate it. And sort of in a light way, Chakravarti Thakur is saying that Krishna is saying, because saying you gave up, your husbands, your children, your parents, Arjapatam Chihitva, you crossed over the prohibitions of the Vedas, Dharma, you threw Dharma in the Jamuna, right? And you gave up your family, but I haven't done that. But, it's an indirect way of Krishna saying, who is it he doesn't give up? Them. It's a little bit circular, you understand? He's saying, I haven't given up my people. Well, that's them. And he says in various places, for such devotees who've given themselves, could I ever abandon them? That's his real, true family. So, that's what he says in the Bhagavatam. Then Srila Guru Maharaj says in his extraction from the Chaitanyastakam of Rupa Goswami, the Sureshanam Durgam Gati Ati Panishad Ati Shayano Panishadam Muninam Sarvasam Panata Batalinam Madhurima Vinir Yasha Prema, I forget. Says here, the Braja Gopis, what they're seeing is that to their delight and astonishment that Krishna has become the canvasser or the advocate of their mistress. Meaning, Krishna is now telling the world by his own example as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu the glories of Srimati Radharani. Jari Gorna Hoita Tabiki Hoita Kamani Daritam Dehe Radhar Mahima Prema Rasa Sima Jagata Janata Ke. Vasu Ghosh saying, if Gauranga Mahaprabhu had not descended in this world, we would not know the Radha Mahima, the glories of Srimati Radharani. We will think, as new recruits, like, well, it's about Krishna. Krishna can say everything, Krishna, Krishna. Yes, but there's no Krishna without her. Without her worship, that Krishna is imaginary, a hallucination, fictitious. Not I'm saying that, Bhaktivinoda Thakur saying that. If your Krishna bhajan does not culminate in Radha bhajan, you're wasting your time. And then we say, oh, having read the Bhagavatam, we can come to that conclusion in the 10th canto, which sometimes probably that's, if the Bhagavatam as a whole is the body of Krishna, then that's the smiling lotus face of Krishna, which is the most beautiful part, as given by Bilva Mangal Thakur, Madhuram, Madhuram, Madhu, Shibibo, Madhuram, Badanam, Madhuram, Madhugandhi, Midhu, Smitame, Taraho, Madhuram, 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 Madhuram. Saying he's so sweet, 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 sweet is Krishna. His form is sweet, Anangotsavam, like a festival, his divine form, of sensuous beauty. And more sweet than that is the face of Krishna. And if upon the face of Krishna he smiles, it's too much. So he's Madhuram, 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 sweet, sweet, sweet. Too much sweet, right? That Krishna. So, as Guru Maharaj says, Yadamiyam Mahima Sri Bhagavatam Kathayam Pratipadam Anubhutam Apyala Davideya Tadakila Rasa Murte Shamalila Avalambam Madhura Rasadi Sri Radha Pada Padmam Prapadye. Although her name is not given there, but Anaya Radito, the one who worshiped Krishna best. Back to Aradhya Bhagavan Brajesu Tvanaya. Every step of the way, every sloka, everything is meant to take us in one direction. We're saying that's Krishna conception. Yes, but Krishna conception fully and in the highest quantity and quality through what? Radha Dasyam. Service to the holy lotus feet of Srimati Radharani. If Krishna is only fully, truly Swayam Bhagavan at her side, then it makes sense that service to the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani brings one in connection with the highest quantity and quality of Krishna conception, which is the strategy of all of those in the Rupanuga line. No. Then, so we say that, and we say, well, you're all devotees of Krishna and the Braja Gopis. Of course you say these things. I would like to meet people who think like that, actually. But then Guru said, so what is the evidence for all this big talk and all these things you're saying? Right? Srimad Bhagavatam, Pramanam Amalam. It's the, Amalam means pure, Praman. This is the pure evidence of the Srimad. The Bhagavatam is the evidence of this, culminating in those pastimes in the 10th canto. Right? And what is it indicated? That beyond Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha? No, Prema, Pumarto, Mahan. Beyond these things. Right? They chagged Dharma. Right? Arjapatam Chihitva. Sarva Dharmam Parityajamam Ekam Braja Sharanam Braja. Braja Sharanam tyags Dharma. Right? And to achieve what? Prem. That Krishna Prem, that's the goal of all of this. Not to be religious, to become a religious person. God forbid that we become religious. No, Prem means love, which is what everyone is searching for. And then, so back to that original, that's the ultimate substance, except it's personified, the personality of Godhead, the supreme personality of Godhead. And so then Guru says, and where did you find all of this? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Matamidam Tatrapi Napara. None other than Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's asserting these things. And who is he? Krishna, who's come in this world to sing the glories of Srimati Radharani. Isn't that nice of Krishna to do that? I think so. That's just too much, that he would descend here to tell everyone how great she is. He never said a word against her. Sometimes he said things against Krishna in his man, his loving anger, Gopi Bhav, but never anything against her. Right? He's only singing the glories of Srimati Radharani and the sort of divine love that she possesses. Mahabhavs Rupini Radha Thakurani. She's, what did it say recently? Mahabhav Chintamani Radhara Swarup. She's like, coming in connection with her, she's extending the kind of love she has for Krishna. So, yes, how does the soul become riveted to matter? Consciousness harnessed to flesh. It's terrible. It should be illegal. But that would remove our freedom. But actually, again, good news is Asango Hyayam Purusha. Prabhupada would like to quote this Vedic aphorism saying, the soul is never actually contaminated by the modes of nature. So then what's the play? The Bhagavatam tells us, just as the moon is shining on a pool of light, a pool of water, I always think that classic image they like to show of the moon reflecting on a pool of water in front of the Taj Mahal. It's like every poster, postcard, like that. So if you have that image in your mind, and then you see that pool, and there's the moon shining there. If you, what is it, Yata Jale Chandramasha Kampadis, if you, how do you say, shake, right, the water, and it creates ripples, right? And what do you see? The moon goes like this. It appears that the moon, according to the ripples in the water, the moon is becoming distorted. It appears that it's being affected by it. But it's not. The moon is situated in one place, and it is shining. It is reflecting onto the pool. And so it only appears to, that pool, that is a karmic circumstance for the soul. We're shining onto the body and bodily circumstance. And what is the trembling? Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, birth, death, old age, disease. And you say, well, you mean we're supposed to overlook the miseries of birth, death, old age, and disease on the basis of some sort of philosophical idea? Yes. It's called Krishna consciousness. It's very liberating. Right? Tantaraja Murishyeti Pashubudhim Imam Jahi Pashubudhim. After all this talk, Sukadev to Parikat Maharaj, including that 10th canto, then 11th canto, all these things, it's sort of startling at the end, but it's part of the play, where he turns to Parikat Maharaj and says, Tantu Rajan Marisheti Pashu Budhim Imam Jahi. He says, my dear king, he said, so after all of this, he said, to think you're the body and that you will die, when the body dies that you will die, Pashu Budhi, that's animal intelligence. They think like that. Right? Like Bhaktivinoda's song, stand, heroic man. No, you're Mam evangsa jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Sun and sun ray, like Krishna, but magnitude is different. Infinite magnitude, Krishna, finite magnitude, jiva. But with so much prospect, so much hope lies in that prospect. So Rupa Goswami said, Atakshi Krishna Namari Nabhavye Graham Indriye. All these things we're talking about, they're beyond the grasp of the senses, mind, and intellect. That's what we talk about regularly. Things that are beyond the grasp of the mind, the senses, body, mind, intellect. Right? Achintya, that which is inconceivable. The name of Krishna, the forms of Krishna, qualities of Krishna, the pastimes of Krishna, they're beyond human comprehension. Muhyanti atsuraya, the gods are bewildered and trying to estimate. So what is the conclusion? Guru Maharaj would say that finite cannot know the infinite by finite means the infinite can make himself known to the finite. And so Guru Maharaj concludes, and then what will, favorably dispose the infinite toward us? Seva, self-giving, self-offering. that Krishna, that melts the heart of Krishna. Guru Maharaj would say sometimes, we need to touch the heart of Krishna. Right? And what particularly? What, directly? No. If we serve the devotee of Krishna. Right? Like the Guru Maharaj pointed out, again, back to those Braja Gopis, not scholars. And he said, you don't have to understand everything, the whole, like, get all these deep philosophical points. If you can serve, you can get a connection with that plane. That, he said, that's what's demonstrated by the gopis. Although we know in their pastimes as the Goswamis, how much they know. They know everything and more than that. Right? But as gopis, teenage girls, they're not like that. It's not on the basis of cultivated knowledge that they've come to the conclusion that Krishna is this, that, or the other thing. No, just pure heart. Right? And that heart is expressed through sacrifice. And sacrifice means self-sacrifice, self-giving, atma samarpanam. And that brings, so Rupa Goswami, Sevan muhike hijavarushai resportida. When there's a current of self-giving or service, self-sacrifice, then there's illumination, revelation. Hare Krishna. Oh, this is the last thing I wanted to say. So, then we say, so how can this be achieved in some realistic way? Guru Maharaj tells us the nature of pure devotion is such, talking about pure devotees, that they don't allow a pinprick through which any remuneration can pass to them. We may say by analysis, as you surrender to me, and we can reward accordingly, and we can make so many observations and conclusions. But Guru Maharaj is telling real, genuine devotees, they don't want anything from Krishna. They truly only want to serve and satisfy and make Krishna happy. There's no expectation of remuneration. Das kori beton mori deho prema dan. Right? So it says prem as for salary. And Guru Maharaj said, and what comes as a result of seva, he gives the example of compounded interest. Like a capitalist, they invest some money, then when the interest comes, what do? They increase their capital investment. They don't spend that. You understand? They expand the capital investment and keep expanding it. That is their sole interest, to expand their serving capacity. Right? So I think such devotees who will not allow a pinprick through which any remuneration can pass to them, saying, then Krishna is confounded. Krishna has a dilemma. Because he wants to reciprocate with those devotees, but they won't take it. Like we hear when Srila Sanatana Goswami Prabhu's birthday came, and Rup Goswami reveres Sanatana as Guru, and he wants to give something nice on his Guru's birthday. And we know they're living under a tree, they have nothing. Somehow Rupa Goswami secures some milk from the local gopi girls in the village and makes this kheer and offers to Sanatana. And Sanatana Goswami Prabhu is taking this. But remember, he is a connoisseur of rasa, true rasic devotee, right? Accept no substitute. And the taste of this substance to him is unique and it's identifiable. He's on that level. The taste, he knows there's only one place from which this can come. And so he asked Rupa, where did you get this? And Rupa Goswami lives under a tree, like me. And Rupa Goswami says, one of the girls nearby in Yavat. She gave it to me. And Sanatana Goswami said, go find that girl. And Rupa Goswami goes there, and no one knows any such girl from there. And he comes back and said, no, there's no such girl, no one knows. And Sanatana Goswami Prabhu is devastated and says, like, Ashavari Amrita Sindhu Mayi Katanchit, for whom our lives, our whole life's aspiration is to serve her holy lotus feet. We have accepted service from her. How horrible. Right? So Guru Maharaj used this as an example to say, Sanatan in this instance showing this higher position than even that of Madhavendra Puri. Right? He's devastated that to receive service from Srimati Radharani. So the pure devotees, they do not allow a pinprick through which any remuneration can pass. And that is perplexing to Krishna. Right? What can he do? Right? So Guru Maharaj says, then if we come and serve that devotee who won't take any service from Krishna, but if we somehow can serve them, then how pleased Krishna will be, doing the very thing that he himself would like to do. So our strategy is always to serve the lotus feet of Guru and Vaishnav. Right? And in that way, please, we don't go around or over or through Guru and Vaishnav in the name of serving Krishna. Never. Right? So, Dashayate Mama Rasastu Rasastu Satyam Sakayame Mama Namostu Namostu Nityam. Raghunath Das Goswami, the Prayojan Tattva Acharya, saying, my focus is on Dasyam. He's the Prayojan Tattva Acharya, the Rupa Nuga line. Saying still, my focus is on Dasyam, the least aspect of Seva. Right? Like Radha Mukunda Parasambhava Garma Bindu. Right? And he's saying, Sakya here meaning more intimate service, that is worshipable to me. Pujala Ragapat Gaurava Bange. Matala Sarujana Biyashaya high above is worshipable. That's from Raghunath Das Goswami and echoed in the motto of Sri Gaudiya Math from Srila Saraswati Thakur, that keep that plane above as worshipable and as the object of our service aspiration. And however removed we may be, if we get some chance to serve, like Guru Maharaj said, to be utilized, uses that word. Like we always hear our Srila Madhusudan Maharaj say, use me, right? When he presents himself to the devotees and says, use me. That way, Guru Maharaj said, that we may have some quota of utility in the spiritual world is unthinkable and inconceivable good fortune. But somehow, by the grace of our Guru Varga, this opportunity has come to us. So let no service be ignored or devalued. As Srila Saraswati Thakur said, taking Srimati Radharani to be the major domo who's in charge of the domestic affairs of Krishna, every aspect of the Mat Seva is Radha Dasyam, and therefore worshipable and desirable by all aspiring servitors. Hare Krishna. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Gopal Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Nityananda Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raguna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raguna Jai Goshai Kori Tarana Bandhan Jaha Hoite Vignanas Abhishta Puran Jai Goshai Dharmui Taro Das Pansabara Padarenu Mora Pansagras Andera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanivas Janame Janame More Abhilas Jai Go Jai Jabe Braje Koilo Vas Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korilo Prakash Anande Boro Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas Purinam Sankirtan Kohe Narottamada Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Gaura Haribo Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Gaura Haribo Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajaka Satara Sada Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Sudhir Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Jai Saparikar Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharva Govinda Sundar Ju Ki Jai Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktavinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gaur Govinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai Shri Gupta Govardhan Ki Jai Ganga Devi Jamuna Devi Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Om Vishnupad Vishvavarenya Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Acharya Vrinda Ki Jai Jai Shri Bhakti Bimala Badut Maharaj ki jai. Jai Shri Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj ki jai. Seva Vrinda ki jai. Samaveda Bhakti Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Go Premanande.
Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
And Maharaj Dandavats from Madhava Priya Didi, Dhanjay Prabhu, Russia, Madhurya Bhava Didi, Ukraine, Kalyani Didi, USA, Praneshwari Didi, Raseshwari Didi, Samantha Fairclough, Suchitra Didi, Tapanandini Didi, Vijay Krishna Prabhu, Seva Rupa Didi, Mexico, Audari Lila Didi, Joan O. Dwyer, Ireland, Lila Sundar Didi, Australia, Lila Sundar Prabhu.
Sundari.
Lila Sundari Didi, yeah, sorry, Australia. Lila Sundar Prabhu, Govindaland. Ashapurna Didi, Mahavirya Prabhu, Ofir Yavits, Pradim Palem, and Das Anudas, Italy. And and Bhakta Bandhu Prabhu, Dandavats Maharaj, greetings from Shichya Samad, Philippines. And then Dhanjay Prabhu from Rome. Our Dandavats to beloved Srila Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj and all dear devotees from Dhanjay Das and Chaitanya Mai.
Right, Dhananjaya Prabhu and Chaitanya Mai Didi Dandavat. Hare Krishna. Here how Rupa Vilas Prabhu in Philippines, Sri Haridas in Brazil, Indumukhi, oh, and Chandrakanti and Sudevi. Jai Sudevi. She's in China. Happy New Year. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Lalita Priya Didi Dandavat, Subhada and Toms Dandavat, Nityananda Das here Dandavat, Banavi Didi and Rome Dandavat, Chaitanya Nitai Prabhu Dandavat, Janvi Agarwal's parents, Sandeep Krishna Prabhu, Maheshwari Didi, Paramananda Prabhu Dandavat, and there's the Ekadashi Didi and Siberian and the Tom's temple and their beautiful deities there. Adidev Shamala Didi Dandavat, Kamalini Didi Dandavat, Gaurachandra Prabhu Dandavat, Saraswati Didi in London Dandavat, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Malini Didi in St. Petersburg Dandavat, Ananda Shesh Prabhu in Spain Dandavat, Hare Krishna. And I say Gurjit Aurora, all right. Das Anur Das, I have a suspicion who that is. Jai Sudevi, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, all right. And did I miss anyone? Rasananda Prabhu, Ukraine. Ravendra Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat. All right. Vanchakalpatribhyascha, Malini Didi. Oh, yeah. Vanchakalpatribhyascha, Kripa Sindhu Bevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna.